trying to get promises for land. On the other hand, the Italians look pretty gung-ho about this. So the 1914 situation is really exciting. The game starts out much more fluid than it'll end up. Basically there's a completely separate set of rules based on, is it early 1914, i.e. August, September, or, yeah, my idea of early is odd. You should see when I get up in the morning, given an option. But then, starting in 1915, the trench warfare starts to really solidify. Now, a lot of games I have, I have two other major World War I games. One of them is the SPI, very small folio game. It doesn't really change the rules between the trench warfare and the non-trench warfare. The other one I have is the Rand Company's area-based game, which is really, it looks very exciting. It ends up not playing out as well in terms of what you're trying to do in the game. For example, I will always see Russia fall in that if I put any effort against them with the Central Powers. Well, not fall, lose all their territory. They fall by a fixed situation. The SPI Folio game actually handles things much better. Still, the Russian Revolution usually is delayed, but it does get the right feeling where the Central Powers is attacking on the East Front in order to destroy Russia, whereas the Western powers are attacking on the West Front to try to drain the Germans, especially, to the point where they can't continue their offensives as well. This game works a little differently. You kind of have to maintain offensives on both fronts, although there are some means of getting around that. So, for example, if the Germans conduct an offensive on the East Front, then they don't have to conduct one on the West Front. And likewise with the Austrians. But both sides have to conduct an offensive, so you don't have that overwhelming, okay, I'm going to throw everything I got against Russia and see if they collapse. You do have a little bit of flexibility there. The other thing is, the other games that I've seen tend to make attacking sort of altogether a bad thing, because they're very military games. On this one, because it's all based on, and that's part of this this big track up here, the national will, which right now is very high for everyone. The historical puts them all at 40. That affects morale, but more importantly, once you get down into these low numbers, and you can't really see them, but there's values for strikes, mutinies, revolutions. So most of the games that I've seen, well, the Folio SPI version, you capture enough cities on Russia, they revolt. Okay, that's neat. The Rand one, it's pretty much on a certain date Russia's going to have its revolution. On this one, it can be any country. If you can't keep your national will up high enough, and you do that by winning major offensives, either not fighting them or losing them is very bad for your country. In fact, losing them might not be so bad as not fighting them at all, because if you lose a city, well, if you lose them on defense, if you lose a city, there's a chance that you can get some of those points back through a patriotic reaction. Losing on offense is almost always bad. Now, as the war progresses into the latest stages, the rules change yet again, and not as much. The combat system is very intricate. It basically takes a good 15 minutes to fight out a one-hex battle, because you have to set up all the counters and have them attack each other. You end up setting up to a couple of sub-battles. there's bombardment rounds. It's all very, very intricate, whereas most other games are very much the operational game sort of style. Oh, hey, I roll a die, what happened? And in those cases, you lose some productive capability. In this case, you lose the units, or they get injured. You start pulling reserves into the battle, because winning the battle is actually more important than the attrition. The attrition's a big factor in the game. There's no question of that. But the other World War I games that I'm familiar with, that becomes the entire game. It becomes not so much can I get a hex, although later with certain assault technologies, tanks, Strasstruppen, in those games you can gain hexes. In this game you can gain hexes no matter what. Attrition's a part of that, but more importantly is things like national morale, the morale of the army, the quality of the generals. Let me zoom in. We have specific leaders who are ranked. They have stars for attack and defense. They have a number of different values which affect their different capabilities in terms of command. They also have special abilities. So for example, let me see if I can hold this steady. I can't get the zoom in clearly with that. But yeah, that guy has an advantage with Strasstruppen, and he has an advantage with tanks, and he has an advantage with gases. In addition, he has a plus when he's attacking. Anyhow. I really love this game. The components are beautiful. The only thing that I can kind of complain about, other than the sheer size, which would turn most people off, is the counters are very, very thin. I'm not sure how long they'll last. That's an Azure Wish issue. Second issue, the rules. Not only are they humongous, over 100 pages easily, and a lot of special cases, which sometimes you'll forget. But the other problem is that you cannot. They aren't completely readable, and that again is an Azure Wish issue. And it's not just the French rules versus the English translation. However, I'll give you this much: this is probably the best set of rules that they've put out. Certainly far better than Europa Universalis or La Révolution Française. Anyway.